welcome back once again to another tutorial. As I want to show you on how to get your two-piece collar, as you can see right here. So what I have here now is my two-piece collar, which I want to show you on how to do it step by step. I also have a video which I have posted before on how to get your collar, but that is one piece. It is the same color as this, but that was cut in one piece. So what I have here now is two-piece collar that has the collar stand cut differently from the main collar. So this is perfectly, and I tried my best to make it simple. I hope it is very easy for you guys to understand. So you can see how my front looks like in my collar, and make a description on how you can make your collar the way you want, the kind of shape or the kind of design you want. You can go ahead to make it like, and you can see the back of my collar. So you can see how neat and smooth this side looks like for my two-piece. So this is very nice. I will love you guys to try yours and also make yours to be like this. You can also follow me on my Facebook page. My Facebook page is Wilson's Fashion Glory, and my Facebook group is Sew It Yourself by Glory Prince Footprint. I would like you guys to follow me on social media and will show me your work in case you have done anything just like this. So I'm expecting you guys to do something like this with yours. If this has been difficult for you making all this wide, I really hope this helps you out. And please give this video a like. Please, I really want you guys to give this video a like and share to your friends to also learn on how to make your two-piece collar. So let's go straight into the video. Come back to another tutorial, two-piece collar. That is what I want to show you guys now, how to get your two-piece collar. So I have my pattern paper and my pen. I want to make this quick and easy for you to understand. So what I'm going to do now is to draw my straight line, which I'm going to work with. So this is a guideline for the collar which I want to make now. So I'll make this line as a guide line for my work. So after getting your straight line for your two-piece collar, which I want to make, after getting your straight line, you're going to take your measurement for your round neck for your collar. So this is my collar, which I'm going to place as this my round neck. So what I'm going to do is to get my measurement for my round neck. And what do I have for my round neck? I'm going to take from this end, just like this, down to the other end. I'm going to take it just like this. And what I have here now is I have 16.7 rather. So I have 16.7 at my point here. So what I'm going to do for this my 16.7, I'm going to divide it by 2. 16.7 divided by 2 will give me 18.2. So I'm going to put my 18.3. 8.3, I'm saying 8.3. 16.2 divided by 2 will give me 8.3. So I'm going to put my mark. I'm going to put my mark at 8.3, just like this. So after placing my mark at 8.3, what I'm going to do next is to roll my line upward like this, 8.3. So after getting my 8.3, what I'm going to do now is to divide my collar, this is my neck collar, I'm going to divide it by 2. So you can see I took my round collar measurement. So what I'm going to do now is to place it like this, and I'm going to calculate it, dividing this by 2. So let me keep my pattern paper aside to make this easier for you to understand. So I'm going to divide it by 2. So what I'm going to do now is to get my measurements for my back, because this is my back and this is my front. You can see my front is open and you can see my back. So what I'm making for now is unfold. When cutting on my fabric, I'm going to place it open. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get my center front measurement first. So make sure your shoulder lines are meeting each other. So this is my shoulder line, which I have here, that differentiates my back from my front when joining. So from my shoulder line down to my neckline, I have 4.5 right here. So after getting my 4.5, what do I have at this point? at my back. So my front is 4.5. Let me list it for me not to forget. Front, center front, CF 4.5, 4.5 for center front. Then my back will give me, my center back will give me 3.2. So my center back gives me 3.7. Center back 3.7. So 3.7, 4.5 plus 3.7, 8, 9. So let me do my calculation. Okay, so let's do the calculation together. So I have 4.5 plus 3.7. So my center front is 4.5, my center back is 3.7. So 4.5 plus 3.7 gives me 8.2. So I have 8.2 right there. And if you could remember what I have at this my full length after taking everything was 16.7. So I have 8.2 right here. So I'm going to put my mark at 8.2. 8.2 because of this my tape is. Let me look for a tape that does not have this mount, so it makes my calculation easier. Okay, let me just go with this. But please, when you are working with your color, please don't use your marker, use a pen. It will be better when using a pen to do this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to mark at my 8.2 right here. And I'm going to roll my line. So take note, I'm not making use of this line anymore. I'm not making use of this line. I'm making use of this one which I have here. So after getting my 8.2 now, I'm going to make here my center front. I'm going to make here my center back. So here center back and here is my center front. So my center front, what I'm going to do, my center front is 4.5. So I'm going to place my 4.5 at my center front, which means this my 3.7 will be for my center back. You can see my 3.7 for my center back. From here to here is my 4.5 for my center front. So after getting my mark there, what I'm going to do now is to get my collar stand which I'm working with. My collar stand which I'm working with now is 1 inch. So I'm going to get a total of 1 inch for my collar stand. Just like this. 1 inch for my collar stand. And I'm going to connect it together. Connect it together. So what I have from here to here is 3.7. I'm still going to replicate the same thing at this other part here. 3.7 at this top part. So to get our collar curve, our collar is not supposed to sit straight like this. It is supposed to get that shape of a collar. So what I'm going to do now is to extend my collar at the center front by 1 inch. So I'm going to extend my collar at the center front for 1 inch by 1 inch. So which means this one is the down part which we are working with right now, and this now has extended to the upper part of our collar. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use my marker, my curve to connect this together. So let me bring my curve and do that. So what I'm going to do now is to connect it. You can see this is where I took my 1 inch down to this point. I'm going to connect it from this my 1 inch down to that point. Let me bring this closer for you to see. I'm going to connect it from that 1 inch point. I'm going to connect it down like this. Then I connect from this point to this other one as well. So I'm going to connect it to this point. So after connecting it like that, what do we have for our calculation now? I'm going to cross check what we have from here to this end. We have 8.2. So So I will make sure I have the same 8.2 at this part. So this is my 8.2 mark, which I have here, 8.2. So I'm going to mark my 8.2 right here. So you can see my 8.2 mark. So this is my 8.2 mark. So let me cross check here as well. 8.2 mark. So this is my 8.2 mark, which I have right here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to mark my straight line like this. Hope you understand what I'm doing. So what I have from here to here is my 8.2 because I raised my front upward. So it is not equal as the way it was at this down because I raised my up by 1 inch. So this is my 8.2 that I was having here. So from here to this up now is my 8.2. So after getting my 8.2, your collar is not supposed to be straight like this. So I'm going to give it that collar curve, and I'm going to put 1 inch here to get my curve for my collar stand. So my 1 inch there, then I'll use my curve. You can use your curve, you can use your hand any way you wish to get your curve. So I'm going to connect it like this to get my collar curve. So you can see what I have right here. So this is my stand for my collar, which I have here. So what I'm going to do now is to cut out my stand. So before I cut out my stand, I'm going to take note of this 1 inch. So my curve from here to this part is 1 inch. So this 1 inch here, I'm going to extend my line so big because I really need this line to get the upper piece of my collar. So after getting my 1 inch stand here, I'm going to cut out. So you can see what I have here. So after cutting out my collar stand, what I am going to do now is to cut the second piece of my collar. So remember my collar was drawn like this and cut out. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn it like this. But before I will do that, let me give this my 1 inch a notch so I know that this is where my 1 inch is. So the 1 inch which I connect down to this point, I'm going to put it like that. Then I'm going to turn my collar like this sideways. So you can see this was how I draw this my collar stand. So I just went on to turn it like this. So after I turn it like this, make sure this end is equally placed and equally sits at this end here. So you can see this end which I have here and this end, it should fit equally at this point. Hope you are seeing what I'm doing. So I place it equally at that point. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get from this point, I'm going to get my center back. Now my center back is 3.7. So this is my center back, 3.7. So this mark which I have there is my center back, my 3.7 for my center back, which I just marked right there. So what I'm going to do now, from this my 1 inch point, which I kept here, this is my 1 inch notch. You can see my 1 inch notch at this point. So from there, I'm going to give a dotted line, which I'm going to connect later on. Be able to give it a dotted line to meet up my center back point there. So what I'm going to do to meet up my center back point. So what I'm going to do at this point like this, what I'm going to do now is to connect also to my center back. I'm also going to give it dotted lines because I'm going to connect all my lines together. So take note, this is your 1 point, your 1 inch which you have here, mark which is here. So I'm going to connect my lines together. I'm going to give it a straight line like this first. Then at this point, I'm going to connect it. I'm going to connect it down like this. So after connecting it like this, at this back point, this is my center back, because when cutting on fabric, here is going to be on fold. This point is going to be on fold. Same thing as this other part. Here is going to be on fold when cutting it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to extend this point by 2 inches. So this totally depends on how wide or how small you want yours to be at the back part. So here is going to be 2 inches for what I want. So at this point, you can decide how you want it. You can decide to make it 3 inches. You can decide to make it 2.5. But what I want to make, let me make use of 3 inches or 2.5. But I don't want it too big. So let me make use of 3 inches at this point. So what happens at this point, this depends on how you want yours to sit, how sharp you want yours to be. You can as well make it 4 inches. It all depends on how big and bold you want your collar to be, and you can as well shift it up to this extent, just anyhow you want your shape of the collar to be. That is how we are going to rotate these points like this. So what I'm making with now is 3 inches, and I don't want it to have that curve like that, so I'm just going to put my tape like this to mark out my 3 inches which I have here. I'm going to connect my ruler. I'm going to connect it together with my ruler just like this to meet up that point like this. So after connecting it like this at my second piece, this is my 2.5 which I have here, my connection. What I'm going to do now, my center back which I have from here to here is 3.7. As you may know, my 3.7, I'm still going to put my 3.7 at this point here. I'm going to put my 3.7 at this point there. So from this point, now I will now go ahead to draw my collar to meet up this point here. Then from here, I take it down to this point. From here, I take it down to this point, connect my collar just like this. So this is the shape which I want. But if you want yours to be sharper, as I told you, you can go ahead to extend yours at this part. You can go ahead to extend it up to 4. It all depends on how good and how sharp you want yours to be. But for me, I don't want it to be sharp. I want it to have this normal kind of little bit of shape at this my collar here. So what I'm going to do now is to draft out my second piece for my collar. So after drafting out my second piece for my collar, when sewing your collar, you want your collar to be easier for you to sew. So you need to get some crucial points. So when sewing, it will be easier for you to get. So remember, for our center back, I have 3.7 for our center back. So my 3.7, I'm going to put my mark here at 3.7, which is my mark at 3.7 here. So if you take note of our collar stand, because this is our main collar, this is our collar stand, I'm going to sew it like this. So this is my 3.7 which I have here. You can see my mark for 3.7. You can see the one at the upper part. So you can as well put a notch. Make sure when doing anything you are going to place it like. So this is how our collar is going to sit when sewing. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut my gum, which I'm going to gum this before cutting my allowance on my fabric. So let me go ahead to bring my gum to show you on how to place it and cut out, then iron for it to give you a perfect sewing. So let me go ahead to bring my gum to show you that. This is what I'm going to use for my gum for my collar. So what I'm going to do now is to fold this. As I told you, my fabric is going to be on fold, so I'm going to do the same for my gum. So you can see my gum now. I am placing it on fold, so you can see what we have here. So this is how I'm going to place it and cut out. So I want to cut out. Let me see which piece I'm going to work with first. So let me cut out this smaller piece before cutting out the other one. So what I'm going to do now is to place it like so. Take note of this point here. Here should sit equally as this point here. Please take note of this point. Here is very important. So I'm going to place it equal just like this. Make sure it is equal. So I'm going to place it equal like this without wasting most of your time. Or should I show you how to cut it? So I'll just go ahead to do it like this. Cut. Please, you need to take your time when doing this. I would have advised you to pin, but if you pin, it will also shift your fabric. With your pinning, it will shift. So you really need to be patient. You really need to be patient. If possible, your name should be patient for this. You really need it. So go ahead to cut like this. So you can see what I'm doing here. And cut this other part like this. So take note of this your 1 inch point at this part. Here is my 1 inch mark at my front for my collar stand, which I just notched there. And this is my 3.7 at this my center back. This is my 3.7, which I have here as well. 3.7, which I notched. So this is my collar stand, which I have here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut my main collar, still placing it on fold, just like this, placing it on fold as well, to cut out my main collar piece. So always take note of this point, please. This is very important. You should know, because it's very small. You should know that this is very important. Make sure it is sitting very well. So make sure it's sitting very well. So this video today, which I'm shooting this video now, is making me 1 year in office. I really appreciate you guys. Today is making me 1 year in office, and I'm still doing it today again. Isn't this awesome? 1 year in office. So let me go ahead to cut it as I showed you at the other part. So this is it. So you can see how it looks. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to place it on my fabric. First of all, I'm going to place one piece first on my fabric. I'm going to place one piece first on my fabric like this, and I will iron. Make sure you are keeping sewing allowance at this part. So I will do it like this and iron, then I will cut it out, then come back to show you how to go about your cutting. Make sure at this part you are keeping 1 inch for sewing allowance. At this part you are keeping 0.5 inch. This is the down part of our collar stand, 1 inch, but from this part 0.5 inch. And at this other part you are going to put 0.5 inch all through. So let me go ahead to do that and gum it on my fabric, then come back. So I have gone ahead to gum it on my fabric, as you can see. So all here what I have all through is 0.5 inch, which I have at this part. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces of this fabric. I'm going to place it and cut another one for this fabric. But for this side, what I'm going to do, I'm also going to get 2 pieces. But what I'm going to do first is to fold it like this and press with my iron. So I'm going to fold it like this, making sure this my fabric elapses on this part. This is my under part. Take note. This is my under part. This is my up part. So this under part, I'm going to fold my. This is where I told you to keep your allowance by 1 inch, but it should not get up to the 1 inch. About 0.7 is okay. So I'm going to fold it like this and iron. So after folding it like this, I'm going to place it on my machine. Then so let me iron it first to make it easier for you to understand. Okay, so you can see I've gone ahead to iron it as I told you. So what I'm going to do now is to place it like this on my machine, and I'm going to sew 0.5 inch. Take note, I'm going to sew 0.5 inch from this part. I'm going to sew 0.5 inch down to this end. So let me go ahead to sew that, but before I go ahead to sew that, let me go ahead to sew this as well. Let me cut it out for you to know what to do about this. So just go ahead to place it like this. Just go ahead to place it like this and cut 2 pieces as I told you. So let me cut it without wasting much time. Okay, so this is the second piece which I have for this my main collar. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to sew at this edge here. So take note, this is my top part of my collar, and this is the under part. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to sew at this part like this, sew it up till the end like this. So I'm going to sew it like this, then turn it over. Before I turn it over, I'm going to place my notch as this upper part like this, and I'm going to cut this like this. I'm going to cut it out like this, cut this out like this, then sew it and turn over for you to see. I have turned it in, but I bring it out just to show you on how to do this. So I told you to cut it like this, then notch, so you can see my notch at this part. I want you to cut it like this. Please don't cut on your seam, please don't cut it on your seam. So you go ahead to turn this in. So take note of this when bringing this out. Make sure you have take it very slow, very easy when doing this, so it does not bore out your sharp edge at this point. So I'll go ahead to do this. So I'll do this later on. Let me go ahead to explain this to you. So I went on to sew my 0.5 inch as I told you. So I just placed it on my machine like this, and I sew all the way from this part and I sew down to this part. So after doing this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut my second piece for this part. So at my second piece, what I am going to do at my second piece is to place it like this. I'm going to place it like this. So take note, this is my up and this is my down part. So at my second piece, I'm going to keep a space of 0.5 inch. 0.5 inch for sewing allowance at this spot, at this down part. So I'm going to cut out my collar like this. 0.5 inch at this part. So at this other part of my collar, so I will make sure after bringing this out, the allowance which I will get between this part and this part, that is the same allowance which I'm going to get at this upper part in between these two parts. So let me just go ahead to do everything and iron, then come back to show you the next process to take. So I have gone ahead to iron it. So after ironing my collar, so what I'm doing when ironing your collar, please make sure that line which you sewed is sitting at that same edge which you sewed. So if you take a closer look at my collar, this part here, you will see the line which I sewed at that part. So when ironing your collar, you should iron everything in place, and that line is sitting exactly on that spot which you sewed. So take note of that. So after that, you can see this is the part which I have my collar gum. So this is the part where I have my collar gum. So what I'm going to do is to sew 0.5 inch from this part down to this part. So let me go ahead to do that first before coming back to show you what to do next. If you have done just that, you can see I've gone ahead to sew it down. So after doing that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place this equal like this. I'm going to place it equal just like this. And what I'm going to do to get my notch as this my center piece at this part. You can see I just created my notch at this part like this. This is my center. So indicating that this is my center, so I just create my notch like that. So at this other part, this is my collar stand as well. I'm going to make sure my collar is sitting at the same shape as this other part. But this is, I'm going to make this equal. So placing it like this, you will definitely see that this is equal. This is the end at this part. So I'm going to do the same thing at this part. I'm going to do it like, please don't cut it up to that length because you are still going to sew it like that. So after creating my notch again at this other part, what I am going to do, this is the side which I have my gum. So and this is the side which I have my gum as well. So it will face this very side which I have my gum like this. It's going to face like this. Then I'm going to place this other part like this as well. I'm going to place this part like this. So you can go ahead to turn it over like this, place it like this, and I'm going to sew. I'm going to sew from this part. But if it is possible, you can also pin. If it is still possible, you can also start your sewing from here first. Sew it all the way to this end. Make sure when sewing, you are following the shape of this down part. Make sure you are catching up with your sewing at this other part. This is your space which you have here. Don't climb your gum say at this side. Make sure you are catching up that space. So that is how I'm going to sew from this spot like this. I'm going to sew from that spot like this all the way to this down. Then from here again, I'm going to sew all the way to this down. So let me go ahead to sew it, then come back to show you what it looks like. After that, after sewing it, this is what I have right here, back and front. What I'm going to do now is to turn this out like this. Turn it out. So after turning this out, so what I'm going to do next is to iron. So I'm going to place it like this, make sure everywhere is equal like this. And I'm going to iron it, then come back to you. So I have gone ahead to iron my collar, as you can see how it looks like. Now I have gone ahead to iron my collar, and I went on to trim my sewing allowance, to keep my sewing allowance. So what I have here is about 0.3 inches, which I have right here. So after getting my collar like this, it's now sitting fine and neat. So now time to sew it. That is what I want to show you guys on how to sew it. So what I'm going to do now for my collar, you can see how it looks like, very fine. So let me just show you how to sew it. So what you are going to do now, you can see this is my right part of my fabric. I'm going to place it at this my right part of my fabric like this, right side facing right side like this. And at this point, what I'm going to do for sewing, I'm going to turn this in like this. I'm going to turn it like this, and I'm going to pull one part of this out. So you can see this is my turn up which I have for my collar. This is my main base collar. This is the one which I use my second piece. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this in. I'm not going to stitch on this my main base collar which I just sewed and done. I'm going to keep it aside. Then I'm going to sew at this point here, at this my main base collar here. So I'm going to sew at this point. That's what I'm going to do at this part here. I'm going to turn this like this. I'm going to place it like then sew my stitch up to the other down. And there's still another way which you can go ahead on how to sew this your collar together. What you can still do, I want to give you two different ideas for you to try anyone which you think will be easier for you to do, because I just, my own is to make things easier for you. So let me see if I will be able to make this easier for you to do. So you can go ahead to give this center a notch. So you can see what I just did here. I make sure I placed it equal at this end and give it a notch at this center. And at this your main base for your main body, so at your neckline, you can still go ahead to do the same thing, placing it like this. And at this your center piece, you give it a notch. Make sure you are on the center piece. Give it a notch just like this. So after giving that a notch, what you are going to do is to place your both notches together like this. Place your both notches together like this, and sew from this part down to this end, and do it the way I told you on how to do it. You're going to do it like that, and sew down to this down, and do it exactly the same way I showed you. So let me go ahead to do it and come back to show you how it looks like before continuing. So to make it easier for you to understand, I went on to sew it the way I showed you. From this my center piece, I went on to sew it down to this end, and I did it exactly the same way I told you. So you can see what I did there. This other part is not included in my sewing of this collar. So you can see this part, which is my main collar piece. You can see how it looked at the part. It is free there, and as well this other end is also free at this other end. So I just went ahead to sew on my how will I call this other part, on my turn up, which I used to turn my collar. That was what I sewed in. So when I turn this in just like this, because I'm going to put my collar in like this, the next step is to put your collar in like this. You can see what I have here, and put it in like this. So you can see what I have. So because I did not sew this in, you can see that it is still coming out here. So what you are going to do, you are just going to push this in at this part. You are going to push it in at this part. You're also going to do it at this end when you have gone to this end. So after pushing it in, I'm going to go ahead to we'll go ahead to stitch from here as close as possible, from here down to this end. Make sure when stitching there, you don't just stitch it so that here will be rough. Please make sure here is smooth like this and neat. When stitching this other part, make sure this part is neat. So let me go ahead to stitch it all the way to that end from this point, from this spot here. Go ahead to stitch it all the way to this other end. I'm also going to do this like this. I'm also going to do this like this, and put this in and stitch out to this end, then come back to show you the final work of our collar. This is my collar. I've gone ahead to sew it as I told you guys. I've gone ahead to do that, so you can see how neat it looks from the other part, and you can see this other part as well. You can see how neat this part as well looks. So what we are going to do, the last part to do now, still have the last part to do. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run a little stitch at this point. I'm going to sew a little stitch at this point. Close to this point, because it's not going too close. I'm going to sew it all the way to this down, all the way to this point. So this is my stitch now that I'm going to sew is going to climb on only my collar stand. So I'm going to sew it on my collar stand just like this, from here down to this end. Then after that, I'll go ahead to iron my collar properly, then put it on the mannequin for you to see the finished result of what you have been making.